welcome to the Fit Marriage Show, #1 straight talk fitness show for busy folks. I'm Dustin Reekman, I'm your host today. Before we jump into the program today, I had a couple of special announcements. One is that Tony and I have decided for a limited time to do some free program selection. So what that means is basically if you're looking to take on a new fitness program, either your first or something new, and you're really not sure which one would be right for you, we're going to chat with you for free and help you find the one that meets your needs the best. And so to take advantage of that, all you got to do is email me, Dustin, D-U-S-T-I-N, at fitmarriage.com, and we'll get set up and we'll spend a short time together and point you in the right direction. The other thing I wanted to remind you of is that if you're listening to this and you found us through iTunes, we would really appreciate it if you would leave a review on iTunes. So basically in your iTunes store where you find the podcast, you can just click the number of stars that you think the show is worthy of. We hope that's 5 stars, but whatever you think is fair. And if that's all you can do, that will take you 3 seconds, and that would be great. The other thing you can do is actually leave a short comment in there so that other people can get your thoughts on the show. And the reason that's so important is because iTunes really weighs that heavily in putting us up there where other people can find us, and it helps us grow and reach more busy couples. So we definitely appreciate it if you could help us out in that way. So getting into today's show, I have a fantastic guest. His name is Thor Holt. So aside from having such an awesome name and being from Scotland, has a lot of other unique characteristics and a lot of cool, unique fitness perspectives and stories to share with us. Thor has a personal training background, as does his wife, and he's really changed his perspective on fitness over the last decade or so, from being very, focused on his looks and almost to his own detriment, all the way to today where he's really got things in a good perspective, got his time in a good proportion, and has just leading an overall healthy lifestyle. And I think that's a message we all need to hear. So without further ado, let's hear from Thor Holt. All right, welcome once again, everybody. I'm very excited this morning to have Thor Holt joining me. As I mentioned in introduction, I've got to know Thor, kind of an online friend through an online friend thing with Johnny B. Truitt, and I've had a chance to chat with Thor, and I know he has a lot of great information, a lot of passion about the subject of fitness and family, and real excited, Thor, to have you here.
Hey man, thank you. It's great to be here. I'm getting a lot more attention over the last couple of weeks because the movie Thor is just coming out in Scotland, in the UK. I'm getting people like sending me emails from all over the world. Hey Thor, they made a movie about you, man.
That's awesome.
This is a topical interview for you because you've got a real Thor on your show.
It really is. Yeah, I can't hurt for the search engine, so I'm real excited. Can you just to kick things off here, just kind of give your elevator speech about who you are, a little bit maybe about your background, what your accent is all about, and why it's so early here in the morning when I have to interview you.
Elevator pitches are good because like my best elevator pitch would be something helpful like mind the doors, step back from the doors. I don't really do an elevator pitch, but hey, my accent, let's start with that.
Yeah.
Because Johnny brought that up as well, and what you Americans have to realize is I sound virtually English over here. Like if you live in the UK, if I'm in Scotland and I'm speaking to real Scottish people, they think I'm English, man. Okay. If I go down to England, they can hear a Scottish accent, and you guys in the States can obviously hear some kind of accent, but I have got the most, what's the word? It's really mild, my accent.
Okay.
So there's a reason for that though, and that kind of feeds into where I'm from. I was born and brought up in Shetland, which is, it's kind of a set of islands up north of Scotland. In fact, I believe it's closer to Norway, so it's closer to Scandinavia than it is to mainland Scotland and the United Kingdom. And there's a really strong Viking influence up there.
Okay.
So you would think there'd be loads of people called Thor and Odin and all these crazy Viking names, but no, I was one of the few with a crazy Viking name, and my parents are English. My parents are English hippies who moved up there in the early 70s. So I had these English parents at home speaking with quite polite English accents, and most of my friends were little hippie children who had English accents. So that is why I don't have a strong Shetland or Scottish accent, because my upbringing was really among other English children, at least until I was 12 years old. So then when I was 18, I moved down to mainland Scotland and went to university down here, and haven't really ever been home. Like I go and visit my mom occasionally, don't worry, but basically I now live in United Kingdom, and I've traveled a bit. I've traveled to Australia, Europe, and been in the States for a while as well.
All right. Well, very
So
cool.
that's the accent covered.
Okay, yeah. And so you didn't just adopt the name Thor in honor of the movie. It was your hippie parents. So.
Yeah, it was my dad. My dad takes full responsibility or credit, depending on which way you look at it. So I was speaking to a guy in a business here the other day, and he said to me, Thor, it's the best name ever. It's like marketing personified. You've got the marketing and you don't even have to pay for it. It's just in your name.
Yeah.
That's partly true, but I think I have had a personal training company for 13, 14 years now, and I always think that a lot of people, especially the ladies, are disappointed when they meet me because, like, I don't know if you can see, but I'm not a huge Viking god. Like, I'm about 185, 200 pounds at the most.
Yeah.
On a big day, so I'm not a huge hulking guy.
That's funny. Well, you mentioned your background a little bit as a personal trainer. We're going to jump into that. One thing we like to do here, given our theme, is talk a little bit, too, about our families. So, yeah. Obviously, I believe you're a married guy, and maybe you could tell us a little bit about that and your child.
Okay, well, marriage. Well, the first important point about marriage I always make to my single male friends is, guys, you got to get married. There's two really important reasons why you got to get married. One is the stag do. You have stag do's in America? Same thing?
Yeah.
Like the bachelor party.
The bachelor guys?
Like, have you seen that movie? What is it? The Hangover or something? Isn't that? Oh, yeah. That's great. So
yeah, now Hangover 2 is coming out.
Oh, is it? Brilliant.
Yeah.
Well, the first reason you got to get married, the stag do, the bachelor party. But the second reason that I tell them, and if you have a family audience here, please cover your children's ears. The sex gets better, guys.
Right on.
So that's just my philosophy, and I love being married. I'm being quite honest. My wife's not here. There's no pressure on me. I just enjoy it. I mean, for me, being married has been by far the most content phase of my life. I've been married, 6 years, and this is where it's at for me. Like, it feels good. It just feels right. And my 20s were probably, maybe a lot of us had this, but it was quite an unhappy time. Yeah, I had girlfriends and everything, but there's something really special about making that commitment to someone and taking each other for whatever good and whatever bad. That's pretty cool. And I think you mentioned I'm not a religious guy. Like, I don't believe in that kind of side of it at all. So for me, it's the commitment is to the other person. It's not to some all-knowing creator up above. It's purely to that other person. But that's a really strong thing for me. That's just like the ultimate friendship. That's what marriage represents for me.
Yeah, no, that's a great way to put it, I think. And it's exciting to have that connection with you, because I do have more of the religious connotations on marriage, but I can totally get the contentment side of things too, and how even you're making that commitment to your spouse, but it feeds you too. I mean, if you're with the right person, I think it can make you feel a lot healthier and happier. Regardless of that commitment to them, it's just the contentment and knowing that someone's there. And nothing wrong with saying the sex and intimacy can be better as well. So I think that's a great point to make for all these stags, as you call them, out there in the world. So that's cool. So you mentioned though that you've had a personal training company for 12 or 13 years, and I know when we've chatted before, your wife also comes from a similar background. I believe it's maybe the same company that you guys work in, or maybe you have your own things. So I'd like to, a little bit about that, how you got into personal training, and I know one interesting thing whenever we chatted previously was that even though you're a personal trainer by trade, and I know you do a lot of other things, you kind of had this perspective that needs to still come second, and a lot of people who have come to you as a trainer kind of lose sight, lose perspective, kind of get into the whole vanity side of things, not only lose perspective of their family maybe, but even their own health. Even though they're calling it fitness, they're kind of get off the wacky meter and actually kind of harm their health. So if you can just maybe spend a couple minutes sharing some of your experiences with that and your background in personal fitness, that would be great.
Well, that has got to be the most open question I've ever been asked, Dustin. Yeah. That's good, because you went on for a couple of minutes there, so I've now got no idea what we're speaking about. But I'm going to set off on a track that I think you've hit. And I'm going to use myself as an example. Like, yeah, I've had clients in all kinds of situations. And what I've noticed about a lot of personal training clients is they're often not interested in fitness. You know, they are really interested in how they look. And there are people, it's not just my clients, you know, in general, as in society, I think a lot of us are really mainly interested in how we look. Like, we want to look cool, we want to attract other people's attention, or we want to be judged as being sexy or whatever it is.
Sure.
And my clients are no different. And I certainly was no different, especially in my 20s, I would say. So I'm 37 now, but in my 20s, the big obsession with me, I mean, I was working as a personal trainer, yeah, but my big obsession was how I looked. It was how big I could be and how buff, in your American words, like how cut I could be. And it was all about the look, you know, and I'd do anything to look a certain way. And I think a lot of people are like that. But for me, I might be getting a bit off track here, but for me, that kind of started to change significantly when I got into the relationship with the person who is now my wife. So I think for me, the thing that was missing was a really good quality, significant other relationship. Now, that might not be the answer for other people, but that's why I say fitness, training, bodybuilding, whatever your thing is, they're secondary to relationships to me now, but they certainly weren't in my 20s. But they never brought, you know, that didn't bring happiness. I could be, 220 pounds in weight, and I could be lifting, I don't know, whatever weight. And I thought that would make me happy. Well, year after year of getting bigger and bigger, it didn't make me happy, you know? Yeah. So, but being in a quality relationship, I think can, if you put the right amount of effort into it, it can definitely it certainly has for me, it's made me a hell of a lot happier than I ever was before. So that's why I say some people, I think, kind of lose touch a little bit. For them, it becomes a means, and it was for me, it was a means to look a certain way, or for some people, it might be performance. It might be to perform a certain way. But, you know, if you're running the fastest you ever have in your life, that's great. But does that mean that you're having a good life?
Right.
Maybe, you know. But for me, what's the word? Savior's maybe too strong a word, but like the real difference is in the relationship. So having a relationship with a real high quality person who, you know, takes me for however I am, and hopefully I do the same for her. That's where I think the priority should be. You know, it's not for me to tell my clients, you know, you can politely suggest, but, you know, I've got clients that have had, I don't know, for example, plastic surgeries, or like their eyes cut and moved to stop their eyelids drooping and things. And I know why, you know, but I get why people do that, because I was in that phase myself, you know, about where it was all about appearance.
Okay.
So for me, that's just the wrong focus. I mean, for me, the focus needs to be on relationships, because what if, you know, like, I don't know if you've seen any of Johnny B. Truant's interviews, his Badass Project, but some of these guys don't have the option to try and make themselves look better or whatever, and doesn't mean they're not constructive members of society. It doesn't mean they don't have fantastic relationships. And I'd like to think that is now more at the core of who I am.
Yeah, no, that's perfect. That's perfect, and that's a great example too of kind of the other side of that coin with the Badass Project and all the things that Johnny does there. And for those that aren't familiar with it, it's people who I think he would put in quotations as handicapped or, you know, disabled in some way, but still do extraordinary things. And some of those are physical, some of those are more artistic or other things. But that's a great example, and it's a good way to keep perspective on the whole vanity thing and getting fitness in the right place in your life. You mentioned a few times about relationships, and obviously the most important one there is your wife, and how that's really inspired you to be healthy as a whole and feel well and feel positive. And if I'm not mistaken, I think you also guys have a small child. Mm-hmm. And so you're kind of new parents, and I would love to hear your thoughts on how that's also fed into that, or maybe change your perspective even more, versus just being married, but also married and as a parent, because I know a lot of our viewers are parents, especially of young children, as am I, so I can relate to that. Yeah,
well, it was, as you might expect, a pretty big perspective changer. As I'm sure you remember, when they come along, everything changes, that's for sure.
For sure.
But definitely in a good way. I would say it moved even further from it being about fitness or appearance, but it did shift into health. Like, health became more of an issue. So, like, going out and partying and that kind of thing takes a bit more of a back seat. In fact, a total back seat. And like, starting to think about things like, well, how can I actually try and make sure I do live longer? Like, I want to see my kid grow up, and I want to see if she has children, I would like to meet them. You know, I'd like to be a grandparent someday. Now, in my 20s, being a grandparent was a complete irrelevance. In my 20s, I thought it would be fine to die at 40 as long as I'd achieved the way I wanted to look. That'd be fine. I mean, it was that extreme. I'd be like, well, if I look great and I die at 40, who cares?
Yeah. Well,
now I'm thinking, 40, that's only 3 years away, man.
You feel a little different when you're 37.
Yeah, man, totally different. So now, and that is with a child coming along. So for me, that has made a huge impact, I would say. But in other ways, like I have one of the reasons that I train is so that I can protect my family. And like some people think I'm crazy when I come out with this stuff, but in my mind, if somebody breaks into my house, if somebody carjacks us or whatever in some city somewhere, I want to give myself the best chance of being able to look after my family. So part of that is about being fit, being able to run for miles if I need to get help, being able to pick somebody up and body slam them, whatever, being able to knock somebody out. I'm not being extreme. I mean, yeah, these things probably won't happen, but if they did, I want to be able to take care of that for my family. So for me, that's a huge motivating force to stay active as well. And so it's not necessarily about fitness. Well, it is. It's fitness for a purpose, though. It's fitness not so that I can ride a Stairmaster or row on a rowing machine. It's so that I can defend my family, run and get help. I don't know, lift something off someone who's got crushed, or it sounds like I'm living in a movie world, but you never know what's going to happen.
When your name's Thor, these things you never know.
Yeah. People expect when you call Thor, you turn up and you're like, I've hurt my finger. They don't want to hear it, man. They want to hear that you've done something heroic.
Yeah,
have to make it up.
Yeah, that's great. You have to be prepared so you can have a good story to tell. So when people ask your name, you can talk about why it's the right kind of namesake. That's great. So no, and I get that. And for me, to kind of flip the coin here. I'm not sure I've ever thought about that perspective of protecting my family or be able to do these physical feats for those purposes. But I totally get that. I don't think it's crazy. But for sure with my kids, it's been a lot more of kind of being the dad that I didn't have there, as far as being physically active and being able to be their coach and be able to go out and spend afternoons doing adventure things and being out in the woods and going on hikes and all those things. So totally get that. And so I think for a lot of us, having kids provides a lot of motivation, but the other thing it provides is a whole new constraint on our time. And so I'd be curious, kind of from a practical standpoint, you have a small child, you're an entrepreneur, and you're a busy guy. I know it's hard to get on your schedule. So how do you find the time with all those things going on to stay fit? And maybe tell us a little bit about kind of what you do to be fit. What kind of exercise routine you maintain.
Well, I think the first thing that I need to say here, and my wife Katie isn't here, sadly, but partly because we kind of, one of us will be doing one thing and the other person will be doing another thing. It's quite hard to get the two of us together, especially during kind of daylight working hours. And that's kind of one of the keys for me, is that I have got an incredibly understanding wife. Like, she really does try and give me space to pursue my kind of new business venture, for example, and she's really considerate. So I try to be as considerate in giving her time to do things, whether it be training or whatever, some other hobby or whatever. But I'm almost certainly, I'm not as good at it as she is. Like, she's very, very giving that way. So that is part of the secret for me, is that, and you could call that an imbalanced relationship, but I just think that's just the way she is. She's really giving, and I'm probably slightly less giving. I'm just being honest. So I probably get more time to train than she does. But bearing in mind, she is also a personal trainer, so there are ways, like, she will put our child into the creche facility, and then she will be working out, for example, and then she'll be training some people. So we would tend to try and tag our own training sessions onto a block of client time if it was personal training we were doing. So that's one way, and you've already got the childcare organized because you're going to be working through that time anyway. The other thing that's a real key is, like, we don't hold it against each other if one of us gets to train more times in a week. It's just the way it'll be. Some weeks one of us might train more, some other weeks the other one might, and one of us might have an activity. For example, my wife's doing yoga just now, so I will make sure I have that evening free so I can look after my kid, and she goes out to yoga, and she does the same for me. Sometimes I go to like a mixed martial arts group class. And again, she would look after our kid, and I would be out doing that. So, but it's not like keeping score, you know. It's not like, well, you've had 2 nights and I didn't get a night. So she just isn't like that. But I would consciously make sure that I didn't treat it that way. So it's just about being considerate with each other is the key for us to find that time. And it is a priority. Like this morning, I came home, I'd been working early. I came home, I had an hour and a half. I spent a bit of time with the girls, and then I went and trained I've got like a garage, you know, a carport next to the house with punch and kick bag and some dumbbells and a chin-up unit and things. So I just went and did 15 minutes before I started my kind of office work and my business promotion work today. And, you know, you just find ways to fit it in. It has to be, for me, it has to be part of the whole lifestyle. It's not like an add-on. It kind of has to happen. So it's prioritized, I guess, along with business and along with family.
Yeah, no, I like that. I like that's a great example of, I had 15 minutes, so I squeezed in 15 minutes. Yeah. You know, if you'd had 20, maybe you'd done 20, and maybe you'll find another 15 minutes later, or maybe you won't. But it's just an integral part of your day, and it's yeah, like you said, it's not something that, I guess, is sort of onerous, or it's kind of an add-on. It's something that's messing up your schedule. It just is. It's there from the beginning of your day as part of your schedule, right?
Absolutely. And like you say, for me, that short time period can often be the key. Like some people are like, oh, I just don't have time to train today. You're like, okay, but you know what? You could do something in 2 minutes. Like you could do as many push-ups as you could do, and then as many chin-ups as you could do. And if you did that for 2 minutes, that's a workout. Now, I'm not saying it's a perfect rounded workout, but it's something. And, you know, and then maybe the next day I'll have more time. So, you know, I like to look at it like a path. You know, so you're on this path and it's your life, and there's fitness and there's exercise and there's all these things. And some people think, okay, they had a night and they drank too much alcohol, for example. Oh my God, they think they've fallen off a cliff. It's like the end has happened. Oh, it's all gone. It's all blown. And there's like 6 months of continued blowout and recrimination and self-doubt and hatred and putting on 3 stone in weight, you know, putting on 40 pounds. I just say, no, if that happens at the weekend and you have a crazy weekend, on Monday, you just get back on the path.
Yeah.
Just step back on. You haven't fallen off a cliff. You know, you just stepped off the path. You just step back on and just keep on walking. Like, so I know it sounds simple, and it's maybe not that simple for some people, but I try and keep things simple. That's the way my mind operates.
No, I totally get it, and I'm the same way. So, and I asked you a little bit about what sort of exercises and routine that you do. It sounds, my guess is you're going to say it's quite varied. Sounds like you have varied interests. And you mentioned already mixed martial arts some nights, and I know that you do some resistance training at other times, and then you have the bag training and punches and kicks and chin-ups in your garage. So is there a typical schedule that you kind of start with, or do you just kind of do what feels good?
Well, yeah, nowadays I do what feels good. Like in my 20s, I had logbooks and journals, and I knew exactly what I was doing, and I would work for certain increments of weight increase and whatever the exercise was. And that works, don't get me wrong, that definitely works. But now it's much more about whatever I do needs to be pleasurable for its own, you know, it needs to kind of be fun and satisfying. So it's less about a structured routine. Yeah, of course I know how to create a structured routine, but I also recognize that I can just back off myself that little bit and just find lots of fun things to do, and I'll still be fit, and I'll still be able to defend my family. And so it is much more varied, and I don't always decide until the last minute. This morning, I could have gone running in some woodland near home, and I thought, oh, I'm going to go home, and I'll get to say hi to the girls, because otherwise I'd miss them, because they'd be gone by the time I got back. So I thought, I'll go home, I'll say hi, I'll have a coffee with my wife, and then I'll do a shorter workout because I'll have less time. But so what? I'll do this. I'll do like chinning and press ups and power cleans and work on the bag or whatever. I was skipping it was this morning. So yeah, I move it around now. Now, just I guess because my priorities are different. So I'm still going to find time in the day to do something, but it might only be 10 minutes or half an hour. Yep. Whereas in the past it would have been, no, I train 5 days a week for an hour and a half every time, and that's it. And look, it's getting this result, so it must be good.
Yeah.
So now it's like, yeah, one day I might do nothing, another day I might do an hour, another day I might do 15 minutes, but I'm on that path. You know, as far as I'm concerned, until my hip joints give out and I have to stop running, I'll keep running because I love it.
Okay.
And if that happens, well, I'll get a wheelchair and I'll wheel my wheelchair and I'll get bigger arms. I mean, whatever. So I'm not being flippant about being in a wheelchair. I'm just
I
saying
understand.
the way I think of it is that might be part of my path one day because I've done a lot of distance running in my youth, and yeah, maybe that'll happen to me, but I'll just have to deal with it and I'll find some other cool thing I can do without my legs.
Yeah.
So.
Well, and that was great, kind of hearing that that perspective on whether it's 10 minutes or an hour. It's it's whatever you do. And you can't speak for your wife, since I think she's still more of an active personal trainer, where you're doing other things while you still have the personal training company. But even from yourself there, for most people, because you have your own deal, and you kind of know how you tick, and you have your own self-discipline. But for most people who are coming to say a personal trainer, or someone who says, I'm overweight, I need to get with it, do you recommend doing what feels good also, or do you recommend really having a routine that they stick with so that they can build the habit into their life? Like, what approach do you usually take with clients?
Do you know what the most important thing, and I wouldn't say I've always taken this approach, like especially not in my 20s, but the most important thing is that they are enjoying whatever the activity is, because otherwise it is just a band-aid, it's just a plaster, it's just a thing you stick on the wound. Because if someone is really, really large, obese, fat, whatever you want to call it, it's probably because they haven't got an activity that really motivates them to do regularly. And I'm not blaming them. That can be sometimes hard to find. Yeah, of course, there are lots of nutritional reasons as well, and they're sometimes more important. But like, as a rule, when it comes to physical activity, I really believe you've got to enjoy it. Because if you don't enjoy it, how can it be anything other than a short-term fix? So that's the first thing. So if somebody comes into the gym and they work out and they don't enjoy it, personally, I say go away and do something else. Go and, I don't know, play tennis every day, or go and find something to do. But I work out in a gym still, not as much as I used to, but I still do, and I only do that because I enjoy it. Genuinely, if I didn't enjoy it, I would go and do something else. I'd still want to do something physical, but yeah. So for me, enjoyment is the most important factor. And so for someone coming, someone who is, did you say someone who was overweight? I can't remember now.
I threw that out as an example.
Okay, so they're overweight. The first thing is maybe have a look back at things you've enjoyed in the past, and then work out what's the commonality in that, and perhaps use that as a strategy going forward to move back to some of the activities you did, maybe at a different level, maybe at a lower level now.
Sure.
You get someone who played soccer at university, now they're 45. Well, maybe there is a way they can still be involved in that kind of activity. Maybe it's helping coaching their kids team or whatever it is, but to think you're a completely different person and you're not going to enjoy any of those activities maybe is a little short-sighted. So that's one thing. The other thing I would get people to look at is things they've always fancied trying, but just haven't quite taken that step yet. So it might be like tango, dancing or something.
Sure.
That's something I fancy, actually. So that's one thing to explore in the future. But dancing, like, people often don't think of that as exercise, but hey, it's usually great fun.
Yeah.
So that's an example of the kind of things. If somebody says they don't want to go to the gym, cool. Yeah, don't go to the gym. Don't let me force you to go to the gym. And hey, definitely don't pay me money. Go away and do something that's free. Put the radio on in your house and dance for half an hour. Shut the curtains. You don't want to embarrass yourself on the neighbors.
Yeah.
No, but that's a workout.
Yeah.
That's a workout too. And if you can't be bothered to do that, okay, maybe you're beyond help. I don't know.
Yeah, no, I love that. That's great, and I think that goes along well with your real lifelong view of fitness, and that it's not about this week or this month or even this year. It's really these kind of small incremental steps in a really long journey. And so yeah, if you're not having fun, then there's probably no hope that you're going to stick with that for life. And yeah, of course, we always talk a lot about exercise and fitness. That's the fun side of things to talk about. I'm guessing you're going to have a similar perspective on nutrition and eating, but kind of, again, it's kind of speaking to this busy couple who has 2 small kids and they're scrambling. What are your sort of top tips for them as far as trying to eat well and also have a healthy lifestyle from a food standpoint? Okay,
well, the first thing is I just need to declare that my kid has entered a phase where she will not, she hates healthy stuff right now. So that's a pretty tough one. I just want to get that out there.
How old is she?
She's 3, coming on for 4. And like that age, when she was little, she would eat anything, like all kinds of fruit and vegetables. Yeah. And we were like, oh wow, aren't we doing a great job? How can it be anything?
I
And now,
totally relate. I have 3 kids,
oh,
and the oldest won't eat anything or anything healthy, hardly anything at all. The middle one, who just turned 4, she's an angel still and still eats great. And of course, the baby will eat anything you stick in front of her face. But yeah, it's amazing how their personalities almost just naturally make them eat and not eat things, and you feel like you have very little control over the situation.
I think that's totally right. So, from the point of view of, I think I've had to kind of accept that it's a bit like with the exercise, and it's like a lifelong path. So there's no point in getting too stressed about how your kid's eating right now. I mean, it's just not that big of a deal. You have to think of it again in the continuum, like the long continuum. It's not about this second right now. And I think it's the same with food. Like I enjoy eating out, and I enjoy eating what some people would consider unhealthy food. I just don't have it all the time. Like most of the time I eat pretty healthy. I enjoy fruit, so I'll eat quite a lot of fruit, and I enjoy less so now, but I enjoy meat, but I eat a lot less of that now. I tend to eat more vegetarian meals now. That's just something that's developed over the years. And I'd say my diet now, though, is my food is much more about health than it was in my 20s. Again, in my 20s, it was about protein. It was about getting bigger. It was about eating anything that would make you bigger. So now I'm a lot more relaxed with that, to be honest. But I always do have an eye on like the proportions of what I'm eating. So what proportion of this is carbohydrate, and what kind of carbohydrate is it, and what proportion of protein is here, and is it a decent quality protein? You know, if it's like bacon or whatever kind of ham, I'm thinking, well, it's not very good quality. So yes, I might have it this time, but you know, it's just I'm always aware of what I'm eating. It's not a big deal. It doesn't mean I wouldn't eat. If someone puts a meal in front of me and I think, oh, that's not very healthy, you know, I'm not going to say, I'm not eating that, damn it. Don't you know who I am? I don't eat that kind of rubbish.
Yes, so, and it goes back to that mindset of that if you did eat that, then all of a sudden your week's wrecked, so you might as well just say, screw it, throw it all out. I'm just going to eat terrible the rest of the week. I think that's, and I wrote it down for the show notes and as a big takeaway here. I think proportions, yeah, a lot of people talk about portion control, and that's important to kind of the overall amount. But I think proportion is really important too, because you can have that bad meal, you know, as long as it's not every meal, and as long as you kind of keep a mental tally. Well, I ate a pretty bad breakfast because we went out with some friends, so I'm gonna eat a really clean lunch, dinner, and snacks today, and just kind of keep everything in proportion. I think that's great, and also obviously the proportion of different types of foods, you know, throughout the course of the day or week. I think if you had proportion and portion, you'd be a long way towards having a good diet.
And water, like plenty of water.
Yeah.
Because again, the temptation, especially when you get up early like I do, I'm up at 5 a.m. most days and sometimes sooner. Yeah, well done, man. So I'm up early most days, and what I've noticed is the temptation is to have another coffee, for example. So I just set up this little rule where I'm never allowed to have, it's not allowed, but I don't give myself 2 coffees in a row, for example. I would always have a big glass of water in between at some point. So then you don't want a coffee straight after a glass of water. So you would then have far less of those kind of drinks in a day. It doesn't have to be coffee. I don't know, whatever your thing is that you like to drink with friends or whatever, because not everyone sits around drinking water all day like you, Dustin. I'm impressed, but not...
I'll be having a coffee after I get done with this. But yeah. You got me up so early for this interview. I don't even know if I could stomach the coffee at such an early hour, so I'm joking.
What time did you have to get up? 5 a.m.?
Yeah, like 5. It's not that bad. I'm usually up. My kids are usually up by 5:30 or 6 anyway. Exactly. I'm just usually not on camera with red eyes and, you know, flustered. So.
Yeah.
But
and one thing on food again was I have a little thing. I used it yesterday because yesterday we had a meal with family, and then we met friends in a Starbucks straight afterwards because they were here just for one day. So it was a nightmare day of nutrition, really. It was not good. So at night, instead of making a meal, I just had like half a pineapple, and that was it. And I just felt great, you know, because pineapple is good for your digestion anyway. It helps, there's some enzyme in it that helps you absorb other food. And so I felt a bit bloated from earlier on. I knew I should have something before I went to bed, so I had half a pineapple, and well, it just works wonders. I just felt great then, and I felt good the next day. So that's like a simple thing that I learned a few years ago that has really made quite a difference, actually. Because the temptation is, right, it's evening, I should have an evening meal now. And that's quite a strong habit to get out of, you know, even though you might have had something, you've maybe eaten too much earlier on, or something that was really quite unhealthy. But a lot of people will still eat their evening meal like a tradition. Well, instead of that, I would tend to try and have a piece of fruit, and my favorite would be pineapple.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. I like the pineapple as a specific thing with the digestive enzyme, like you said. But I think that hopefully that'll give me some better perspective because I can fall into that too. Yesterday it was Mother's Day here in the United States. I don't know if you observe such a thing.
We do. I can't remember when it is. My wife keeps me right on this kind of thing.
So I had kind of a normal breakfast, and we went and had a big family brunch. So kind of a breakfast lunch thing. Had a little snack around lunch. Then we had a decent sized afternoon kind of deal with my family, and yeah, we still came home and ate a normal dinner, and I feel kind of heavy and tired this morning, and like you just said, I probably would have been a lot better suited just having a small snack instead of an evening meal, and I think a lot of people it's just habit, and you kind of get into these patterns and habits, and even though you've front loaded all your calories maybe on a day like that, and you could do without it, we still do the whole shebang and eat too much. So that's a good point.
Do you know what I think? I think it is, Dustin. Like with a lot, I think it was with my mum, and it is with a lot of. I'll try not to be sexist, but like with a lot of mums, there's this equation that food equals love in some way, and I get it because I love cooking too. Yeah. So when you cook for people and you see their happy faces and they're like, "Oh, that was really good," and that's a great feeling, and that builds up over the years into an amazingly powerful force. So that the mother in that particular case, or the father, if it's the father cooking, feels that it's like their responsibility that everyone's got to eat again. It's evening, you got to eat. That's it. Eat your meal.
Yeah.
And you don't need it. Why do I have to eat it? I don't know, but it's this thing, the food equals love. Like we would never have got away with, as children, we would not have got away with not eating our dinner at night just by saying we weren't hungry. Even if we weren't hungry, you'd still eat it, and you'd eat all of it because there are kids starving in Africa or whatever.
Right.
So, okay, I got to eat it then. Ah.
Yeah, we do the same to our kids. I mean, and that's a good point. It's very ingrained in our culture, I guess, both in UK and the US. The clean your plate, and there's kids starving in some third world country somewhere, so you should be eating all of your macaroni before instead of throwing half of it away. So yeah, it is kind of funny when you look at it from that perspective that we do that. But it's definitely the food is love thing. I know I experienced that, and my wife's family is very much that way. So our family gatherings, it seems like everyone has a birthday. Every week there's a birthday party of some sort, and there's always a lot of food. And if you're not controlling yourself, you could overeat. Very frequently, just at family functions, let alone day to day. So, So to close out, I'd like to give you a chance to talk a little bit more about what you're doing now, that's different than personal fitness, because I think it's interesting. Maybe some people will be interested in that and want to get a hold of you. But before we kind of close out and do that, are there any other kind of tips here for for busy married couples and along the lines of fitness that we kind of left out, or that you think are important from your experience that you want to share? And if not, I didn't mean to put you on the spot.
Okay, but there is one tip, and it actually came from a gift that I was given, or we were given, when we got married, and it doesn't sound like a very exciting gift. It's a dish towel, like for drying dishes when somebody's been washing up. Now I know everyone's got a dish. I call them a dishwashing machine.
Yep.
Yeah, everyone's got a machine that washes their dishes these days, and it's a shame because this dish towel, it had a message on it, and the only bit it was a great big long thing. It was all about happy marriage. And I can't remember any of it other than because I've lost this dish towel now, but there was one bit of the message, and it said, having a happy marriage is not about finding the right partner. It's about being the right partner. And so I know it sounds too simple to be true and all the rest, but we used to have it up on the wall in our old apartment, but we'd moved a couple of times and it's got lost, which is a shame. But I still remember it. And to me, that is the key, A, for a happy marriage, but also for fitness having a place within the marriage. It's about trying to be that perfect partner yourself. So, for example, saying to your wife, if it's us husbands saying to your wife, look, you have had this kid or these kids all day. I can see that it's stressing you out. Why don't you go for a run? And genuinely meaning it, not just saying it like you should say it, but saying it because, hey, I'm trying to be the perfect partner here in your head. So go and do something for you. And so that, I guess that's my, I'm not going to give a whole list of tips, but that's my tip. Because when I remember that, it's really cool. Now, often I don't remember it, I have to admit. But when I remember that it's not about finding fault in my wife or telling her what to do, it's about me trying to be the kind of partner that I'd want, my daughter to end up married to. Do you know what I mean? In fact, I read that somewhere recently, and I was like, whoa, that's pretty heavy. It was, you should try and be the kind of husband that if you have a daughter that you want her to be married to. And I was like, well, I am not living up to that.
Yeah.
So that was a real rude awakening when I read that. I can't remember where I saw it. It was really good.
Well, those are two great. I think those are two great thoughts to kind of end the interview on.
Yeah.
And I love how you wrapped it back to marriage. And so as much as I pulled over to fitness on some of these topics, you're always really good about bringing it back to marriage, even in the other conversations we've had. And I love that. I have a marriage background, and so maybe to compensate for that, I try to focus on fitness when we have these interviews. But I think it's great to just be comfortable to go back and talk about, the core of all this is our relationships.
Yeah.
And trying to just be better people, and one part of that is our health and fitness. So that's great, and I love your perspective, Thor. Can you just let people know, if they're digging you and they like your personality and they either just want to connect, on Twitter or something, or if they have an interest. I think you're doing some other kinds of coaching now. So if you just want to share a little bit about what you're up to and where people can find you, I'd love to share that.
Sorry, yeah, the first place that I would love people to connect with me is Twitter. Yeah, I'm a real evangelist for Twitter. I love it. I'm a big fan of guys like Gary Vaynerchuk because he walks the walk. Like, he's messaged me back tons of times. Jonathan Fields, guys like that. These guys are absolutely epic because they've got, I don't know, hundreds of thousands of followers, and yet they still interact on Twitter. And it's kind of what we've been talking about with marriage. It's communication, and that is one of my big passions. Like, I forgot to mention in my history, I trained as a professional actor a few years ago, and I've done some professional work and some no big deal. But anyway, for me, communication is a really important thing. And I got into, about just over a year ago, I got into giving like public talks and presenting, partly as a means of pushing forward my personal training business. But what I've realized, people have asked me if I can help them with their presentations and with their personal impact. And it's just so exciting for me doing that kind of work. So that's kind of that's my new venture. You can, if you actually want to find my new site, it's just at thorholt.com. So it's just my name.com or presentandpersonal.com.
Okay, presentandpersonal.com, Thor Holt. And on Twitter,
it's at Thor Holt.
Gotcha.
I didn't make the mistake. Gary Vaynerchuk always talks about having made the biggest mistake ever when he first went on Twitter, because his handle is Gary V-E-E, instead of Vaynerchuk. And he's like, what was I thinking of? So I managed to get my own name, at Thor Holt, on Twitter. So yeah, if someone wants to connect with me there, that's fantastic. Just mention me, just to draw my attention to the fact, if you want a conversation or want to speak about stuff, whatever, give me a shout. As far as the business side of it, the focus is really the corporate market, and mainly oil and gas in the UK and Houston.
Okay.
So I'm not really trying to build a list or anything and promote anything online as such. My site is more a place for people to contact me. It's kind of like a brochure site. It is a WordPress blogging platform, but it's not. I don't plan to be doing a lot of content marketing or anything like that. I tried that previously with my fitness business, and it worked to an extent, and I did make money, but it was a huge investment of time. Yeah. And I think that might be the reason why I ended up with pneumonia this winter, because I was getting up at 4 in the morning and going to bed after 11 every night, and still working full days and trying to spend time with my family. And that whole internet business, that's real hard work, man. So really this business is not really internet focused, but don't get me wrong, I'm massively into social media. Also, anyone who's interested and who's on LinkedIn, are you on LinkedIn?
I am, yes.
Yeah, well, come connect with me there as well, because that is, I'm really pleased with that platform. I really enjoy using that. So LinkedIn and Twitter are my two kind of favorite places to be if I'm hanging out online. Awesome. Yeah, that's it, man.
All right. Well, hey, you have a great rest of the day, Thor. I greatly appreciate you coming on here. I know everyone's gonna welcome your perspective, and they're gonna listen to the interview to see if you're the Thor. And in my mind, you are the Thor. You're the number one. The movie guy man. Can be number two. So
I'm a Thor. I'm just
another. A Thor. Yeah. All right. Cool, man. Well, thanks a lot.
Thanks, Dustin. Right. See you later, man.
See ya. I hope you enjoyed that interview with Thor Holt. A lot of neat perspectives there, and really a down-to-earth and funny guy. So you know all the places to find Thor, and we're going to also list those below in case you want to get a hold of him and chat about anything. He's a very personable and approachable guy. So just a quick reminder before we go, if you're looking for some great resources, you should go to ReadySetGoBlueprints.com. And that will send you to a page on our site where you can get access to our free 5K running plan, our audio program on how to fit fitness into your busy life. We're having a cookbook that's upcoming. That should be in there in the next couple weeks. And it's all totally free. So that's our way of helping you guys out with some free resources. And of course we have our own paid training program, which is called Thrive 90. And you can see that at thrive90.com. And we're looking at a wide range of things here to help you and give you the resources that you need. So I hope you enjoyed the interview again once again today, and I really look forward to seeing you next time. Thanks a lot.